Okay, so I want to review one last thing from lecture 2 before we go on to lecture 3. So if you recall, we were building a slot machine, and we had 3 buttons here, and the purpose of this button was to stop it from spinning. Remember, by default, it would be spinning, and that was that was caused here when you click the timer was causing that, and the timer was running from the beginning. And then here we would click the button catch, and that would set it to false, so the timer would stop. So these would no longer be generated. There would no longer be tick events generated, and so nothing would be happening here because this was the tick event handler. And then this was to continue, so here we would enable the timer again, and that would cause it to start spinning. And this was the exit button. Now, here we had some code, which was the payoff message, and we talked about that. We had integers that we find. Sorry about that. So this is the payoff message, and we will show this picture box, and we said we will make it visible, and that happens here, given the if statement here. So we talked about that in the last video, and here is we're setting it continue. We'll set it to false. Again, the picture box will then be false, and the timer will be enabled again. And then finally, we add a scorekeeper. Again, we add some new functionality, a scorekeeper to maintain and display the total number of wins. For this, we need only to add code and test. So, as I said before, when this when you click the button, the button catch, this code will run. These variables will be created, and they will be set from the labels, and then we will run a test based on those values. And if that happens, this code will run, and then we'll end the if, and then we'll end the subroutine. We'll end this whole set of code. Once this whole set of code is ended, then these variables disappear. That means basically that the variables are just stored in the computer memory, and the computer just sort of loses track of them, so they're really not there anymore. Can't access them anymore. It can also rewrite the location where they are, so they basically just disappear. So that's okay. That's part of what we call memory management. So we don't want to hold on to too much memory if we don't have to. But in the case of the counter, after this button is after we catch, we don't want the counter to go back to 0. We don't want the counter to disappear. So we don't want to define the counter in here. So we define the counter here. It's initially set to 0, but whenever this if statement happens, the counter will be incremented by 1. Because if this is true, then this says increment the counter by 1. So that means that the counter will be 1 higher than it was before. In other words, it's counting how many times this if statement was true. In other words, it's counting how many times we won. And so that's how the counter works. And then down here, we have a message box here that shows you had, and then the counter, which will give you the counter value, wins. And that will be run when the continue button was clicked. Okay, so that will generate this. Okay, that's the end of lecture 2.